Okay, so we were finishing off Halacha Beis in Perek Gimel. What page was it on in the packet? So we're saying, what is a field of trees? That if there's 3 trees, you can harvest. You can. So in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, you had to stop plowing your fields and doing work in the fields for a certain amount of time before Rosh Hashanah, when Shmitta started. So for the trees, it was around Shavuos time. The Machlokas Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. For a field with trees, it's until Shavuos. For a field without trees, it's until Pesach time, the Pesach before Shavuos. Before Rosh Hashanah. So almost 6 months beforehand. So a tree. A tree field has to have three trees per acre. Now, the acre isn't the exact amount, but we're just using that for understanding sake. And we have to see that if they were fig trees, if they would, each one makes a pressed fig cake of 60 mana, which is a certain size, then you can plow the whole field, the whole acre, because of those trees. So that's what we were talking about. So at the end, we were saying that there's a machlokas. The Rambam says each of the trees needs to make a yield of this certain size pressed fig tree, but Rav Yitzchak ben Malki Tzedek says no. You just they need to make a total, but each one should make a portion. Meaning, if you had one tree that didn't make anything and 2 trees that were pretty productive, so that even according to the Rebbe Malki Tzedek, that wouldn't work. But if each tree would only make 20 mana worth of figs, so that when you would, from all 3 of them, you get 60 altogether, then you could plow the whole field. So that's much more lenient than the Rambam's opinion, that each tree has to make a yield of 60. We're on page 10. We're going to start Halacha Gimel. Hayapachos mishlosh levesa, o shayu shlosh v'achad roi lasos shisha mana o yaser v'ashnam ein ruin lasos, o shnam ruin lasos afilu mea mana v'achad ein osa. If there were less than 3 trees in this acre, or there were 3 trees, but either one of them didn't make anything, or 2 of them didn't make anything, even if 2 of them together made 100 mana worth, but one didn't, then ein chorshon hamelo tzarkan v'hum lo or v'sal chutala. You're only allowed to work the soil for the need of each tree, which is only the size of the ora is the person who would harvest grapes, and sell a chutzala. His basket would be outside of him. Now, I don't know if people saw, about 3 months ago, I think, there was a mission from Yeshiva University to Israel, and they were saying that the point of the mission was to show that the Otzer Basin is the best thing to do. And now, Mir Tashem, on Saturday night, I'll talk about Otzer Basin on Shavuos night. But they had a picture there of them harvesting oranges. Now, those oranges weren't Shmitta oranges because they were from the 6th year, but they had little baskets with a strap, and so it was held like over here, and people could pick oranges and go like that. Now, I did see a video on the internet last year where they had a tree. It was a truck that went with like this under the orange tree, and then it extended like a giant upside down umbrella, and then it shook the tree and it picked the oranges that way. So that's clearly now if that's doable for Shmita, it's usually not permitted for Shmita. It's a machlokas between the Rambam and the other Rishonim from a Mishnah that if you're allowed to cut the grapes off with the regular knife that you use, or you have to use a different type of knife, which wouldn't be as efficient and stuff. That's how most Rishonim say. And according to the Rambam, you're allowed to use the regular tools, but you're not allowed to do the whole field because that shows ownership. Now, for one person to do that truck machine to do a whole olive tree, that's more than one person would need. So that probably wouldn't be okay according to anyone. But it's interesting to note. So, but according to what this Mishnah, the halacha, the Mishnah on which this Rambam was saying, so the basket of the grape cutter is outside of the person's body. So meaning besides the width of his body and wherever he'd be cutting, the basket extends a little bit further. So that just means you're allowed to, I guess by hand, rake the dirt or whatever you did around the tree. So meaning if there were 3 trees and they were all gave a good yield, you can plow the entire acre. But if there's less, you're only allowed to plow that width around each tree. So Rav Kook says, if there were 3, so if there were 3 good yielding trees, then you could have the team of oxen plowing the whole thing. But the question is that if the trees are too close to each other, then there may not be considered 2 separate trees, because since some of the land overlaps where they get their nutrients from, it's not considered 2 different trees. So in regard to Shmitta, so Rav Kook here discusses what if So, what if there were 3 trees, but the 2 of the trees are too close to each other that the team of 2 oxen, whatever, which are which are next to each other, can't go in between them. So then the halacha is then that field is considered as if it doesn't have 3 trees. So you're not allowed to plow it. Even if there's 4, but 2 of them were so close to each other that the team of oxen can't go in between them, it's considered as if those 2 trees aren't there at all. It's a chiddush. It's not just that they're considered 1 tree, but we say it's considered 0 trees. I mean that those 2 trees are completely nullified out, and it's only considered as if there's 2 trees in that acre, and you're not allowed to use the oxen to plow the whole thing. You're only allowed to do by hand each tree. But if there were 6 and 4 of them were far enough, and 2 of them were very close to each other, so then we consider, even though the 2 of them aren't there, but there's still 4 trees in the field, so you're allowed to plow the whole acre because of that. So then he has a discussion about that, about the different numbers, about that. But there's a dissenting opinion who argues on the Rambam, which is, who's this mention? The Malachas Shlomo says that even if trees are very close to each other, you're always allowed to work the soil by hand across them. And then the Tosos Anshe Shem says that when we talk about distance, it's only saying that they shouldn't be more than 10, because once there's 10 trees in the acre, and again I'm using acre like this, each one has a 16 by 16 amma area that it could take its nutrients from. So that you need to have a certain distance like that. Okay, halacha dalet. Hayush mishosh v'atisha ruin lasos shisha mana chorshin kobesha b'svilan afapi sheyesh behem misha ina roi lasos. If there's between 3 and 9 trees, and they make 60 mana of figs, or if they would be fig trees, you're allowed to plow the entire field, the entire acre, even though some of those trees don't make that much, or couldn't make that much yield of fruit. So the Rash says that each of these trees need to make 60 mana. So that's a stricter opinion than the Rambam. And the Ravid says that any 3 of them need to make 60, and then it's good enough. And the Rabbi also brings an opinion that this is similar to the, who did we see it from before? Rabbi Yitzchak Ramalki Tzedek, that they could each make 20, a yield of 20 each. So altogether they make a yield of 60. But if there's between 3 until 60, they all have to make an equal amount. So there's a difference between just having 3 trees and having between 3 and 9 trees. And the Radvaz says that in that case we don't mind. Meaning when you have between 3 and 9, they have to be spread out among the acre. But once you have 10 trees, even if they're not spread around the whole acre, you're able to plow the whole field